On. Hey everyone, my name is Simon and I am the average guy of Average Guy Entertainment, and today we are talking to Ryan Hendrick, director of Mercy Falls. Ryan, welcome to the show. I don't know what's happening there, Ryan. I can't hear you.
Oh,
Can now. Couldn't hear you then, that's fine. Okay, don't know what happened with that. Okay, so,
pick two.
welcome to the show. Obviously, Mercy Falls is doing quite well at the minute, so you're a very busy man, so I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me
So,
on.
I think so. What pushed you towards directing, and has it started to feel like a real career now rather than the ambition it probably was in the first place?
What a great question. Um, what got me started was just in a thirst to tell stories, really. I got introduced, my dad got me to watch sort of old reruns of Doctor Who on BBC Two I think it was a Friday night or something in the
Yeah,
early 90s or something. And it just sort of hooked me at that sort of age of 7, 8 years old. And my imagination started to go run riot. So I was from that point sort of scribbling and writing little one-page scripts of Doctor Who and things like that. And then kind of it just started from there. And then my aunt married an actor and theatre director, and who basically said, "You just got to start. You just got to make some. Go make some."
yeah.
Which my parents probably hated him for that because then I'm like, "Mom and Dad, I need a video camera for Christmas. Thank you very much." Age 12, and it was just trial and error. I don't come from that background. I don't really. I mean, I say I don't come from any kind of. I don't have any kind of relatives in film. It's not strictly true, as it turns out, as I found out later on. But we're not. We don't come from. It's not like
it's not an
uncle give me a
immediate. It's
job.
not an immediate background. You didn't have
No,
like an
no,
uncle or a parent in it.
no. Well, fun. It's kind of weird how it's worked out. Actually, it's a bit of a side story, but m two of my great uncles, like so, my mum's
Uncles,
two
yeah.
uncles. You know, back in the day, I don't know if it was the 60s or whatever, but they emigrated to Hollywood,
Oh wow, okay.
and were actually craftsmen for MGM. They would
Oh
build
wow.
sets and upholstery. My long since died great Uncle Jimmy worked on the first Rocky movie.
Oh wow. Okay,
You
now
know,
that's
he was
that's kind of
building
cool.
furniture. You know, that's quite a cool thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I met him once. I don't remember it. That's how young I was when he died. But
Yeah.
I was told stories about these two going out there like and working for like MGM and different people, and just at that just as craftsmen. So that was kind of cool. But I had no connection to it, and no one in the generation in between really were
Had
in that
anything to
industry at
do with
all.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got an aunt who's an artist and a set designer in theatre in Scotland, and her husband, who I just spoke about, is an actor and director. But that was kind of it. My generation have started to kind of branch more into it. I've got a cousin who's also a film director, and I've got a couple of other cousins who work in the industry now who are a bit younger than me.
Yeah.
So it's all started. There's been an interest now, but anyway, that so there wasn't exactly an easy way in for me, and it was just trial and error, trying to find things to do. And then eventually there was a school project that came my way. The three schools in my district were being brought in to do this film project with the police and
Okay.
an institution in Glasgow called, back then it was called the Glasgow Film and TV Workshop, now called GMAC, Glasgow Media Access Centre. And there was this sort of community film that they were funding within our district, and
Yeah.
they wanted three pupils from each school to participate. So I was like, they announced this in assembly, end of assembly. I'm straight down the corner. That me. And I never volunteered for anything at school. I never got involved in anything. But that one thing is like, I will be doing this. That was it, and that opened the door, opened up my network, and you start to meet other people with similar ambitions, and it just grows from there. You have to be surrounded by the right people
Fair enough.
ultimately to kind of to grow, and you support one another, and there's a incredibly sort of supportive sort of community, particularly in Glasgow for filmmaking.
I will say this. I'm quite glad you brought up Doctor Who. Um, Looking back at your early work, what le-
Oh, this is yeah, I know where you're going.
what lessons have shaped the way you approach Mercy Falls, and how did your Doctor Who fan film change the way you wanted to work in film?
Um, well, the Doctor Who thing came out of um, one, a love for the show, and two, a desire to do something that had an audience, that had a built-in audience. And there was a lot of us around. A lot of people, a lot of the cast were involved in sort of amateur dramatic theatre, trying to, elevate themselves into professionalism. Um, and there was a lot. So basically, all the cast and all the crew on that film were getting into the industry. There were a couple of people that were already well established and professional that kind of
Okay.
graced us with their presence and helped us out. But ultimately, there was a lot of new people finding their way, and I'm very proud of that film because that film actually started a lot of careers up here. There's a lot of
Well,
people that were on that film who are now pretty high up in the industry. That was the first thing they got involved in, or one of the first things, or they met people that led to their big breakthrough. They met on that film.
so we
Um,
consider it a network hub.
yeah, that's what that project was. It absolutely was a
Okay.
network hub, and it was a lot of fun to do.
So
And
how
we
did
took it quite.
how did that shape the way you approached things like Mercy Falls?
Um, I think every single thing you do, you kind of see where the limitations are with every film you make, and you kind of strive to improve on that on the next thing that you do. So I've always had a big thing for collaborating and allowing people to kind of, you know, raise their own game in the right surroundings, and not just as a director. You don't just sit there and tell everyone how to do their job. That's not how it works. It's allowing people to kind of bring their A game.
Okay.
And I suppose that takes a bit of time to understand. And I think really when you in earlier projects, when you find yourself surrounded by people that have that A game and you see that being presented, you have to allow it. And it's like, this is how it works. And
Yeah.
it's just practice. Literally, practice makes perfect. And my rule always is every film that I make should be better than the last one.
It's a good rule. It's a very
Yeah.
good rule. It's a shame some Hollywood directors don't listen to that. Okay, so how did Mercy Falls come about in the first place, and what kind of drew you personally to such a kind of dark story?
Well, I've always kind of gone back and forth between lighter stories and darker stories. When the film I made before that was Lost at Christmas, which was a sort of grounded, festive, romantic comedy,
Oh, I'll need to watch
and
that. I need to find that.
yeah, with half the cast are all Doctor Who alumni as well. um, but when when that came out, Christmas scripts started coming through the door, and I was like, okay, here we go, pigeonhole coming my way. Uh, and I thought, okay, I need to make sure that the next thing that I do is completely different, and then I'll come back to it. That's fine. But I like to move around genres.
Yeah.
I'm My whole thing is kind of about emotional realism and sort of grounding characters emotionally in whatever situation they're in. And if you achieve that, then you can kind of go any which way you want. Um, so that's where my interest is. Doesn't matter the subject matter necessarily or the genre. So so initially it was okay. What's the polar opposite to a Christmas rom com? Horror film.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, what's my interest? Because I wouldn't say I'm a horror guy per se, um, but horror has such an array of meaning and subgenre
Oh,
that
absolutely. I mean,
it's there's always something for somebody, and it was just about identifying where was my interest, and it wasn't going to be in torture porn type things. It wasn't going to
yeah.
be in that kind of grisly thing. It had to be something a bit more grounded with some kind of sort of emotional depth to it. And I like filming in the outdoors, so I like survival movies. So that was the obvious sort of direction to go in.
Yeah, I mean, you said about the different sort of genres there. I mean, you could get two directors given the same script for Mercy Falls and come out with two completely different films.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
completely.
Okay, so the film does rely quite heavily on obviously sort of atmosphere and tension.
Mm.
What was your approach to building that mood on screen?
It, allowing a scene or a moment to breathe. I've never been afraid to do that. I do tend to come in for a bit of criticism that my films are 5 minutes too long. And it's
Okay.
I think some for an emotional beat or attention to a mo. For that to really land, I feel you've got to allow it to breathe. You've got to allow it to develop. You don't want to be just cutting around people all the time. I just allow it to go, and it really does come down to the performances, and it comes down to the cinematography of it. Um, and John Rhodes, my DP, really understood what I was trying to do with that film. So, and really kind of brought the right set of skills and approach in terms of the kind of camera design, the kind of movement, and the even the color of that film and just the way it was shot. I was very lucky that because John is a old fashioned film cameraman, he comes with that discipline into the digital world. So you end up
Okay.
with a very film the closest digital camera to a like an old shoot on film camera is the Alexa,
Okay.
um, and with the right kind of lenses that you would normally shoot on film with, and bringing that kind of approach to the whole thing. Because I think I don't I think he responded in the same way that I do. That I think films have got a bit too clean now. Everything's overlit. Everything's flat. There's
Yeah.
no depth. And I mean, I'm a guy that grew up in watching movies in the '90s, early noughties. You know, the late '90s, early noughties for me is that the golden age of cinema for me. That's when it, technology had got to a point where things could be not perfected, but the processes were robust and it wasn't just going for spectacle over substance.
Yeah.
We were
Well,
in
and
that
the
lovely area.
cameras had improved as well. A lot of the '80s stuff was very badly grainy, and
Yeah,
then sort of in the
very. Yeah.
'90s noughties, it did definitely smooth out a lot.
Yeah, I mean it's a nice aesthetic for certain things, but I think the comfortable, perfect middle ground for all of the above was really in the sort of late '90s for me, and I always I've been trying to kind of gradually sort of try and reignite that era because I think audiences are kind of calling out for that because there's a lack of variety now in the cinema. I mean, when's the last time you could go to a mainstream cinema and see a film like Memento or Insomnia, or like that kind of mid studio level thriller that wasn't about the CGI and the special effects and the endless battle scenes? You know, when we don't these films now get made by the independents and go straight to streaming.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the joys of independent British film. That's something I focus on quite a lot at the moment. Is
Mm,
that there is so much more variety now in the independent sort of British, specifically sort of
mm.
filmmakers, sort of milieu, so to speak. Okay, so now you mentioned before about filming outside. Obviously, the locations for Mercy Falls are really important.
Oh yeah.
How did they shape the film's tone, and what influence did they have on the story you were shooting?
Um. Well, I wanted depth. I wanted isolation. I wanted that feeling of isolation. So that really sort of guided me toward the right kind of locations. It's a bit of a logistical nightmare when it comes to these kind of locations because one, you're trying to find locations that meet the criteria of the script, but you also have to find ones that give access to vehicles and to 40 people. And we, kind of fell foul of that. I mean, the the original waterfall and the original cave that I wanted could not be accessed.
Oh, that's a shame. Although
Um,
the cave at the end of the film is quite impressive.
the cave that we did eventually arrive on was spectacular. It was a pain in the ass to access. I mean, that was about the limit, but that was of what we could do, or the kind of the remoteness of it. But the original location was way more remote, and it would have involved probably doubling the budget of the film and building a jetty on site
Oh wow.
to be
Okay.
able to get people to it. It was just, I mean, we went on a recce. A bunch of us went to the Isle of Mull on a recce, and you get to this farm, and I went there years ago, and I remembered it being a lot shorter a route than it turned out to be. So it turned out to be a 2 mile hike over rough ground,
Oh,
and we got about halfway, and the health and safety person on the DP went, "This is as far as we go."
do you
uh,
know what? I think you pretty much answered this next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What was the biggest challenge during production, and how did you overcome it as a director?
well, yeah, I mean, well, funnily enough, the cave that we ended up in is a place called the Tom Nadashan Mine, which was used in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It is the cave of the giant killer
Oh
rabbit.
my God, it is, isn't it? Oh
Yeah.
God.
Um,
Now you say that, I look at it and I think, oh my God, it is the rabbit cave.
yeah. And when we went there, fans of Monty Python do visit this place if they can find it. But over the years, fans have gone and left blood-soaked toy rabbits and severed hands all over this cave. And we had to. I think the art department spent more time cleaning out all that stuff so we could shoot. And then we had to. I mean, there was dozens of them. I mean, we came back a month later because we had to do a pickup day,
And there was more
and
there.
there was more.
It's an odd thing. I can't imagine you did, but was there even for a moment the idea of leaving one of the rabbits in the cave as a little Easter egg?
The luxury of time to think of things like that, no.
Oh,
Because that was a very, very difficult location because it's
yeah.
halfway up a mountain, off a single track road on the side of Loch Tay.
Okay.
It involved off road vehicles getting equipment up there.
Oh,
Uh, the first time it didn't work, so we ended up having to carry all this gear up there. It's on the side of a loch. It's in March. We're filming. There's a scene where Lauren's standing watching the sunset, and
yeah. Yeah,
um,
it's a nice moment. That.
yeah, it's my favorite. One of my favorite moments in the film, and it's you have 20 minutes at most to shoot that. That's the little window where the light is in the right position before it dips down behind the hill, and that's what you've got to do. And as we were setting it up, the DP's like, "What's that?" And he's pointing across the loch and further up the loch,
Yeah.
a good bit up, and rolling down the other side looks like the white ball from The Prisoner. So rolling down, and we're at the top of this mountain, looking down over this loch. And what is that? And I was, I don't know. I'm standing on that's snow. Oh, it's fine. It's not going. It's going in a different direction. It's fine. It's not going to come anywhere near us. What it did, it got to directly across the lot from us, and they just went. "Hmm?" So we're filming her close up,
Yeah.
and she's all lit beautifully with the sun. Jenny, that's not fake. It's real sunset,
Yeah.
golden hour. And flakes of snow start coming into the shot. We had to paint them out.
Oh God, that must have taken
By the
ages.
time we called cut, there was a blizzard going on. Sunlit blizzard.
I bet it looked beautiful, but what a pain to get out of the
Yeah.
film.
Excuse me, I've had the lurgy, but
That's good.
it's been yeah, that was just one of those little annoying things. It's like because on the last film we needed snow and we never really got it, so we had to fake it.
And this one, you didn't want the snow, and
We didn't
you
want
got
it,
it.
we bloody got it. And the crew that were on both films were thinking goes typical, isn't it? Just typical. Like, uh,
Okay, so as a director, you'll probably have a sort of a way that you normally work with actors. Um, was your approach to that any different on Mercy Falls?
a little initially no. I like I like to prep my actors. I like actors. I like to have an awful lot of time to talk about it ahead of time because once you get into the nuts and bolts of film, you don't have the time.
Yeah,
So you really need everyone to be on their A game and be as prepared as humanly possible. And if you manage, and if you're lucky enough to get a group of very smart actors who know how to prepare, um, they've kind of done it for it. The job's done ahead of time, and then it's just about allowing them to do their thing and just hone it slightly as it goes. I try very hard not. I never act out for a cast. I try and not lead them. I try and give them the basics. This is where you have to stand to hit the lights and the get in frame and all that kind of stuff. But safety and all that kind of thing. But it's like
yeah,
I try and talk about the tone of a scene and the pacing of a scene and what I want from it, rather than say emphasize that word, emphasize this line.
so
Sometimes you have to do that.
yeah, but on the whole, you trust them to know their characters well enough
Yeah,
to fit
you
within
start
what you want from the scene.
exactly. Let them bring their intentions to it, and then you tweak where it needs to be. And different people have different skill sets and who respond to different techniques. And some days they're on their A game, some days they're not quite there. They're not there because they're tired or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't always happen, but every day's a challenge in a different way, and you have to kind of respond uh, accordingly and try and get the best out of people. Sometimes you miss stuff, um, and luckily you have someone else that most of the time will tap you on the shoulder and go, "Did you spot that?" Actually, no, I didn't, but I'll go and look at
Yeah,
it because you're answering about 100 questions an hour at speed, and it's very, very easy to miss something,
oh, absolutely. I mean,
especially when you're in a rush.
there must be thousands of things going through your head as well.
Exactly, and you're up against it with time and money, and it's really you have to just get to a point where that works. Move on. You don't have endless takes. And yeah, that does throw up its logistical challenges. But that's why you start to see there is a very clear ceiling, depending on the budget of your film, of how much you can achieve, and it ultimately just comes down to time and money.
Okay, so I can't think that there's any film ever that has survived from first draft to final cut unchanged.
Hmm.
So, were there any moments where the film changed significantly from the original script to the final cut that you made?
A little bit. There is a flashback sequence about half an hour in that takes Carla to Afghanistan. That was supposed to open the film, and it was also supposed to be at night. And for a stupid reason, I decided to change it from night to day, which was a huge mistake on my part, and I regret it. It was because we didn't have the money to shoot it at night, so we knew we were going to be shooting because it's low sun and that kind of time
Yeah,
of year, so we knew we were going to do day for night. But when we shot it, it looked glorious. It looked lovely. It looked
yeah.
absolutely brilliant. And actually, the drone pilot on the film had fought in Afghanistan and had actually praised us for how authentic our location looked to Afghanistan. Because like
Okay.
everybody makes the mistake of thinking that Afghanistan is just sand dunes, but actually it's more like this kind of rough ground that we were in. So I was like, okay, thank you, I'll take that. So that probably got to my head annoyingly, and then I decided because it was the sort of the low hanging winter sun, it looked glorious. Um, so I went with it. I just left it. So I decided in the grade not to change it to day for night, and I made a mistake by that because what we didn't do because we had no time and no money to do that scene, so we didn't have any extras or any kind of military infrastructure going on.
Yeah.
Um, and the plan I had originally been when it was going to be at night, we were going to digitally add a lot of sort of campfires in the distance to give it some more life. And that doesn't work in the daytime. So that's what I kind of screwed up.
Yeah.
So that scene doesn't quite work for me. And as a result, it doesn't open the movie and we put it in to where it is, where it can be a bit more less incongruous.
I
And
think
not
just, I mean, obviously, you read my review. I think sort of that had that opened the film the way you wanted it. I think it would have changed how I personally viewed the film quite a lot because
Yeah, I
obviously
think so.
I think I mentioned sort of the motivations of the killer seem they're a little unclear.
Hmm.
Other than that, I love the film. I say you've read
Oh
it
yeah, thank
before.
you. Well,
But
it's
had it opened the way, I think that would have changed things quite significantly.
possibly. The other reason was the reason that creatively a reason why we moved it as well, though, because we felt that to open with that sequence used, you're basically telling your audience this is the protagonist when that's not the case, and then suddenly the credits come up, and then you're flipping to tell someone else's
Yeah,
story, and that was proving a problem with us, which is why we ended up moving it and trying to place it at a point where we're trying to inject a little bit of mystery. And maybe this is just something I need to hone on a little bit on my own sort of personal approach to things. But I I kind of like a lot. I like the idea of not overly explaining everything that's going on in Mercyful. There's a lot of subtext going on. There's a lot of sort of just underneath the surface kind of thing going on with a lot of characters development, which sometimes works, maybe sometimes doesn't quite break through, and whether that's down to the performance or it's down to the way the film was cut together, is up for debate. But I try not to answer absolutely everything. I like to leave a little bit for the audience to kind of take from, can
that,
work out
that's
themselves.
that's fair. That's
Um,
fair.
and that's a balance, and it's a tricky one to get right because some people will get it, some people won't, and then you'll have polar opposites as well, and that's always frustrating because you're trying to find the right balance where you're
Yeah,
giving people enough, but without because there's nothing
you don't
worse.
want to spoon feed it to them.
Yeah, you don't want to, yeah, because then you end up with just lots of expositional dialogue. It's boring, and suddenly your pace just tanks. You're like, oh. So you've got all these different things to balance it, and I don't know if you can ever get it at 100%. I think it's probably very difficult to get it bang on. But again, it's a learning experience. So, and actually, as a film that we're developing at the moment, it's not the next thing I'm doing; it's the one after that. But where it is very much being born out of of things that we wanted to achieve with Mercy Falls.
Okay.
Um, because it's not. I mean, there's a lot of subtext and a lot of cerebral stuff going on visually rather than audibly, and we didn't go as far as maybe we would like on the survival tones, and as a result, another project was born out of it that went deep into those kind of ideas.
Oh, now I'm
Um,
intrigued. I'm intrigued.
yeah, and that's a whole other thing. But that has been born out of the little hints of things that we were starting to get quite excited about on this, because ultimately, as well, Mercy Falls does set within slight. If you, I don't know, I don't hate to use the word formulaic, but it does sit within the slight confines of Slasher in the Woods. I know there's additional things to that, but that was where it was built from, and that was the almost like the audience that was initially trying to cater for. So
Okay.
I suppose you're kind of balancing, I suppose, the rules of the genre, and then my slightly more art house kind of sensibilities are kind of leaning me over. And then, of course, you end up with the actors jumping into stuff like that. So you end up with them. I mean, you will not believe that this wasn't in the script, and it's not nuts to think that it wasn't there. But at near the end, where you've got Scott has been stabbed
Yeah.
after that fight, and he comes back in. In the original script, he just died in her arms, and because of the different little nuances and the sort of the primal sort of descent that she's going on, that mirrors Carla's journey.
Yeah.
Because everyone had got on board with that, and everyone had taken a deep dive. The idea of Rona actually pulling his hand away from the wound and just letting him bleed out quicker. And that it's quite a cold thing as well, but I
Oh,
suppose it's kind of
yeah.
a mercy killing in its own way.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
that and it's nuts to think that she didn't complete that journey by effectively doing her own mercy kill in the end. And that get introduced as a result of us just talking about it.
Right. Okay.
I'm trying to. What happened was, so the kind of the sex scene that happens right before it was originally the obligatory standard. They get it on, and then everyone's screaming at the screen because what the fuck are you doing? Why are you taking time out to have a quickie when you know that she's out there? Which I do get some flack for, but that wasn't the intent. That actually changed. It was Lauren Lyle's idea to tweak that sequence so it was. I mean, the music cue to that scene is called "Pray."
Okay.
And the intention of that, because her sort of primal senses were being honed on this journey, and if you watch that scene very carefully, she's not sensual with him. She's treating him like prey,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
he is
Yeah.
just a lamb to the slaughter. And it's very, very deliberate on the kind of very calculated moves that she does in that sequence. And as a result of that fundamental change, as we were blocking that scene, then it was like, aha, what if she actually mercy kills him? And it's like, how the fuck was that not in the script?
Yeah.
And it's the it's a and I love watching that section of the movie in a cinema with an audience, because see that moment where she does that, where she pulls his hand away from the wound, lets him bleed out. You cannot hear a fucking pin drop. It's a glory. It's one of those really satisfying moments, because when you make a comedy,
Yeah.
you're waiting for the gags. You're waiting to see how people react to the gags, and you're like, yes, got it. And when people laugh at something that you didn't think was all that funny in the first place, and they really go for it, you're like, hey, bonus. But then it's such a hard thing in a film like this, because no one says a word. No one laughs till about something about halfway through, about half an hour in. And it's a slight relaxing, but you're like, oh my God, are they bored? Are they with it? Are they getting it? But it's like when you get, and there's key
To
moments
a
in the film where
moment like that, and people go,
yeah, yeah, you can feel it. It's dead silence. But obviously, the bit where Andy falls and the bit with the stick, that you're waiting for that ultimately to
yeah,
you're waiting for the film to arrive there, because then you know you're off to the races, because
yeah.
that gets a fucking reaction every time. It's
I
great.
bet it does.
Um,
That that
my
actually, that actually sort of leads in really easy. 'Cause I wouldn't normally rush, but unfortunately, we've only got a few minutes left on the call.
oh yeah, yeah.
Um, so you mentioned in the audience reactions overall, and obviously some of the reviews have been mixed.
Next.
Um, how have audience reactions to the film compared with your own expectations?
Well, yeah, that's the hardest lesson to get to grips with. Obviously, reviews are mixed, and reviews to both those films are mixed. And ultimately, that's what you want. If everyone's telling you it's a pile of shite or it's the best thing ever made, then something doesn't ring true. But if you've got a mixed opinions, you get people that really get it, people that kind of get it, people that don't like it, and people that fucking hate it. That's good, because everyone's entitled to their opinion. It's like everyone watches a movie, everyone, yeah, they like it, you don't like it, whatever. And it's not for everyone. Um, I think if I was, yeah, I think for me personally, I think I would like it if some people maybe got the more cerebral elements of it that are there. Because quite often, if someone doesn't pick up on it, they just go, bad writing, boring, rather actually. Cause it's like, but again, so that's, I think it's like when people just miss what you were sort of very quietly sort of feeding to them,
Yeah,
on a whether because it'll be a very subtle thing. A lot of the themes that are in there, and we don't over explain it. So I think when that gets missed, it's kind of infuriating. But I get it. But luckily, some people get it, some people don't, some people kind of get it, and that kind of that's because I love it
it is
when
what you want, isn't it? I mean, yeah,
exactly. So when someone goes like, I think it was Lost at Christmas, but someone put on Letterboxd this Christmas, worst film we've ever seen. It's like, if that's the worst film you've ever seen,
you've never
and
watched
it's like,
any movies.
that's on you, not me.
Yeah, they've clearly never watched Megalopolis.
Or
Um,
I've got a whole list.
oh
But
God,
yeah,
yeah. I worked out recently that over the years I've probably watched somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 movies.
mm,
Um, I mean, I'm 49 in just over a week, and I've watched a lot of movies over the years, and
I
I
couldn't even
have
begin to
watched some.
count.
Oh God, I've watched some God. I just did some basic maths and worked it out, but I've seen some god awful films. Okay, so we've got like about 4 minutes left. So I'm gonna go with the final question here. So after this film, how do you feel that your voice as a director has evolved, and what kind of projects are exciting you going forward?
Lots of different projects excite me going forward. I mean, with with Mercy Falls, I found a tone that I really liked. I found myself way more interested in the survival and the emotional side of the environment and the story than the quote unquote horror elements. I found myself really getting engaged with that because it was just something you could really latch onto and really. I found I had something to say,
Okay.
and I could really ground though because as a result, that's when the tension of the film I think really worked. I think I tapped into that and just sort of playing with those moments and making them as real as possible, not being cartoony with the violence and whatnot. But yeah, I think just that sort of grounded emotional realism is something that I want to continue to hone across whatever subject matter I'm talking about. Um, and that's what's driving me. That's the interest. That's where I want to go, and it's how you inject that to a romantic comedy or a drama or a suspense thriller.
Or the
And
slightly more extreme survival film that's coming. That's it.
exactly.
Having watched and enjoyed Mercy Falls, and especially sort of the survivally type stuff, you mentioning that has genuinely got me really intrigued because I'm
Oh,
looking
good. I'm
forward to a
glad.
slightly more extreme version. Okay, so once we've got just over a minute left, so I think obviously you're gonna have to wind up. Unfortunately, I wish you could make it a bit longer. So Ryan, thank you very much for coming on.
No, thank you.
Um, Now I can see the poster up there on the wall for Lost at Christmas.
Yes.
Definitely going to
Well,
have to
so
look that up, see if it really is the worst film ever made. Um, but yeah, so yeah, thank you very much for coming on, and good luck with everything moving forward.
thanks very much. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. And just want to shout out to one of my pals on TikTok, Murray on Movies, who is the one that put me on to Mercy Falls initially. Um, so yeah,
Thank you,
so
buddy. I hope you liked it as well.
I don't know. He said he was going to watch it, so I hope he's seen it by now. He mentioned it. I thought, do you know what? I've got nothing to do. I'll give it a watch, and I genuinely enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So it's been a lot of fun, and thank you very much.
Cheers.
And
All the best.
and to everybody else, average guy out. Right now, where's the stop button? There we go.